Randy,
Neil,
how you doing, man?
good morning.
Good to see you.
Yeah, and you.
Thanks for dropping by.
Hey.
Want to introduce you guys to a friend of mine, somebody I've known for probably 10, 15 years, maybe, Randy Black. Randy does, pianos are his thing, sort of, but he plays the guitar and spends most of his life tuning things and restoring things, mostly related to keyboards, I think. More than guitars. You don't repair guitars, do you?
Pianos.
Yes.
I repair my own sometimes.
Okay, that's brave
Not very
enough.
well. Not very
Yeah, yeah. So Randy came by recently, a week or two ago, and we just started talking about tuning, and it got kind of into a whole thing, and I know that a lot of people at the site have tuning issues, whether it's just a matter of getting your guitar in tune or getting into an open tuning and other things, and you rely on your little handy-dandy tuners. There are all kinds, clip-on ones and stuff like that, you know. So, and you have been working on pianos for almost 40 years.
37 years.
37 years. And how'd you get, why?
Well, that's a long story, but I did go to a trade school to get started in Sioux City, Iowa.
What made you decide to even do that?
Well, there was an article in the Mercury News about piano tuning, and my mom was concerned about what Randall was going to do when he got out of high school. Not headed for college necessarily, and she made a comment about, hey, there's what you should do, Randy, tune pianos. And so I was like, huh?
And had you played instruments? Did you play
Well,
saxophone in the band or
I
anything
played
like that?
sax.
Oh, okay.
I played sax in school, and I always loved to sing. I was already playing the guitar from probably junior high on. And I had some piano lessons, but, you know, I was not a pianist. But we had our family piano, and that's where it started. She made a comment about it, and I said, huh? What are you talking about? And she told me about the article, and my brother made a comment that, hey, those guys charge pretty good money, because he had talked to one at school.
Yeah.
So I guess it perked my interest enough that we looked into it,
Okay.
and that's where it started.
So you went off to school?
I did.
In where?
First year, Sioux City,
Sioux
Iowa.
City, Iowa.
Western Iowa Tech.
Okay.
It doesn't even offer piano tuning anymore.
Do many places?
No, there's actually
it's-
less than there used to be.
Yeah.
But there's a few. There's a few. Yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to get into it now, although that's maybe a question for later, because I don't know if we have anybody out there aspiring to be piano tuners yet.
Well, I have thought of offering beginning piano technology classes around this area
Oh.
that I'd put out there and just, you know, do them myself. But,
So a way better, you know, so we have a sister site called Totally Keyboards
oh, that's right.
that could probably use a whole series. We could probably open up your university
on
at
that.
Totally Keyboards.
Okay.
You know,
Let's do it.
Okay, we'll table that one, but that
Right.
might be a way to go.
Yeah.
Is to bottle this thing up as something that is more accessible to people. This is the coolest thing about Totally Guitars is I'm able to reach people that can't come see me for guitar lessons.
Exactly.
You know, so I have students in Europe, I have
In
students
Russia.
in Australia, in Russia, in New Zealand, maybe in China, in Portugal. You know,
Yes.
and
Very cool.
And they're all their guitar careers are all advancing, but they don't have to be here in Northern California.
Very excellent.
So let's anyway, we'll pick that one up maybe in a day or two.
Yes.
And see what you could do there. But so you brought up guitar tuning, you know, when I saw you a couple days ago.
Yes.
And it's an issue that a lot of people are really interested in because everybody has trouble doing it, you know, but most people rely on their electronic tuners.
Yes, they do. Which is good these days. Things are in better tune than they used to be.
You know, I know when these things first came on the market, I remember thinking this is the death of people learning how to tune. You know, because now nobody will pay any
that's true.
attention. You know, well, I kind of softened on that over the years as I started telling students to use it now to check your tuning. You know, get it in tune as well as you can.
So
and
you
then
teach
use
them
it.
to tune. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, once they're a little bit older, you know,
Yeah.
I've got like a 14-year-old now who I just yesterday we started talking about tuning his guitar. He did something that was really cool. He played a chord and his guitar was out of tune.
Yes.
And he and you know it sounded something. Jeez, I can't even grab a pick. And mine's not even really in tune. I mean, I just picked it up. It's a cold morning here, and you know, so I didn't even bother to tune it. I figured if we were going to talk about tuning, I should start out of tune.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But Ethan yesterday at his lesson did this. And he goes, "Oh, that's wrong," you know.
Right.
And I was really proud of him, you know, to just be able to pick that out. It was not even that bad as bad as I just made that one.
So he was going by pitch.
But he was going by, you know, the intervals, he knew pretty much what the guitar was supposed to sound like. And
Yes.
one was off far enough to
Right.
where it's like, you know.
Yeah.
And then I hadn't taught him enough about tuning yet to say, I said, well, fix it. And he started thinking, and he went, and, you know, he started messing around. He knew there was some place he was supposed to do it. So anyway, we spent the first 10 minutes of his lesson going over old school tuning the guitar using the 5th fret. You know,
Yes.
the way I have it right there in my Mel Bay book that I got when I took my first guitar lesson. Anyway, so it was, and then that is something that, you know, a lot of people don't, and some people I don't even bother to tell them. I mean, I don't even bother. They could be with me for years, and we
Yes.
don't talk about tuning. I say, you know what, you're gonna just rely on the tuner. Because
Yes. Yes.
it's going to be good enough for what you're going to need to be doing. I hate it's sort of a little condescending, but don't actually. I want to cut that part out. No. Anyway, but so I guess first, do you want to go? I'm interested in asking you a little bit about kind of the history of tuning instruments, going back to the Renaissance and stuff. Is that an angle we can go into?
That is not something I am, expert in or well versed in. I don't know, but well, I know a few things I could share.
Well, I know that like lutes, they didn't have a way of saying, hey, we need to tune it to this pitch or something.
They didn't used to have standard pitch.
Right, and so they would just tune the top string to any tension that felt comfortable. It felt like it wasn't going to break and it was strong enough to get tone. Then they would tune the rest of it to it. So that was like an early lute book I have written in the 15th century.
Yeah.
Says, tune the highest string to a note that sounds good on the instrument.
That sounds
and then
good.
tune the rest of it from that. Don't make it too tight, don't make it too loose.
Yeah.
It's the Goldilocks kind
Probably
of.
broke a lot of strings.
Probably. I mean, we're talking about gut strings.
Oh, yes.
Too, and they said, the more strings you break, the more
So
frets
you know more
have.
about it than
well,
me.
I do relate it to lutes.
Yeah, yeah.
But and of course they would take the broken pieces of string and tie them around the neck, and those were the frets.
That was the frets.
They didn't use metal frets yet.
Fretless.
Technology hadn't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
But we know from reports that like in Bach's time, pitches had become closer to standardized, but it wasn't where we settled now. So somehow we have settled on this note. Oh, I can't reach it.
You mean A440?
There it is. Why
Is that it? Is that A?
That's my Mongo tuning fork.
That's what they settled in on.
Yeah. Who decided that?
I don't know.
Okay, that's all right. We don't care, but we live with it. There's a lot of things that we don't know about the history of how music things evolved.
Yes.
One of my students yesterday asked me, we were talking about the modes, and they said, and I said, okay, so we use these Greek names for the modes, Dorian, Lydian, Mixolydian, that kind of stuff, and I said, we can understand why there's sort of a tribute to Greeks using their names.
Okay.
I said, but I don't know why the second mode, the D mode, is called Dorian, and the G mode is called Mixolydian. And I'm not going to look that up right now during your lesson.
Are those moods?
Right. It's kind of like, were those colors? Or
This is how you feel when you're in D.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, see, I don't know about that stuff.
So there's a lot of stuff we accept, and we just go from there,
Well, one thing
A440.
I'll share right now, because we're on the subject, is that for some reason in Europe, the violinists I've heard, they want pitch a little higher. And they're requesting pianos...
You mean then now?
Yes, now.
Okay.
They're requesting pianos be tuned to A442, which is 8 cents sharp
Okay.
from standard, what we use, standard pitch.
Okay.
A440. And by the way, A440 is that A on your piano is, or whatever instrument is, at 440 cycles per second to
Right.
produce that pitch.
Right. That's this A on the guitar.
That one.
Or the harmonic on the 5th fret of the A string.
Yes. Okay.
Got it.
All right.
Okay. So we go from there.
Yeah.
That A and now musicians in Germany were playing at the same pitch as musicians in England, and in 200 years ago. The science of this. When did they start measuring frequency for sound?
Who knows?
I know. Okay. Let me ask you something even deeper. No. But yeah, because however they settled on that.
How do they measure how fast that thing's vibrating?
Yeah. Well, how
Well,
they
it's all
decided
an
that?
equation, of course.
Yeah. But when did they?
Although they can even look at vibration now with slowed down photography, I think, and everything.
Yeah, I would think. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
crazy,
But yeah, I mean, it must have been the Galileos of the world or people like that that kind of came up with instruments that could measure frequency of some sort.
Yeah.
And there had to be some kind of visual representation or something.
Those
Anyway,
gigantic brains.
beyond the scope of what we were supposed to be talking about right now, but just interesting to me at least.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now when we tune the guitar, we would usually start with the E, and a lot of times the book would tell you go tune that to the E, 2 E's below middle C.
Is
on
that
the
what
piano.
is that what it tells you?
Yeah. You
Okay.
know,
Tune
just
the
walk
E.
over to your piano, and we have no idea if your piano's in tune anyway. Of course, if you were just there, we know that it would have been.
Close, close.
You know, and, well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if a piano's been out of tune for a long time, you can't just crank it all up and to standard pitch and leave it and say, hey, it's fine.
Boy, that's another whole
You
subject.
know, we'll save that for totally keyboards.
Yes.
But because the same thing actually happens with the guitar. If
Tuning stability.
if I'm at a concert, for example, and I'm gonna go into an open G tuning for a song.
Yes.
I will start going into that tuning like while I'm telling the story about the song. I will delay and tell a story for a minute and a half, and I'll get everything close first, and I'll even stretch the strings or something.
Yeah.
And then I'll finish telling the story. Then I'll fine tune them,
Right.
and then there's a good chance it'll stay. Or
More
even
stable.
better, I will get there gradually. I'll play a song maybe in drop D first, and then I'll go into a song in double drop D. You know,
Okay.
and then I may change it one string at a time for 3 consecutive songs, because you know if I just drop it into G and start playing in 15 seconds, it's out of tune.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, there are. I did have one of my mentors actually got into it as far as to say, because that is true, that with a piano, even if you, or like on a piano with bass strings, if you revive the bass strings and you take them flat, and these are old stretched in
Right.
strings, okay? They are seasoned and settled, okay? You let the tension off and revive them and put it back on. You go back a week later and they are flat.
Way flat, yeah.
Even though you've pulled it stable, tuned it well, it should be in tune. They have drifted. And I think that there could be something to what, he had a metallurgist friend that said that the molecules in the steel, when you move that and put it back, they're still moving after you stop until they settle down.
I can absolutely believe that.
And
they're,
so I'm
they're
like-
sort of unstable.
Okay,
And
molecules in the steel. So that, I don't know if that's true, but I think there's an amount of movement probably in the whole frame. If you've relaxed it and it goes up, then you push down on the soundboard again and you crunch the whole frame.
Mm-hmm.
It's sprung up, and now it's gonna be a little slowly. It's gonna move back to its spot. Maybe that
Yeah.
happens with necks. But there's also something we're going to talk about if we teach tuning is that the problem of not having the string stable from the tuning pin to the other end of the guitar. And so
Right.
it, depending on how hard you play it, how hard you pull on things,
Yeah.
it will find its equilibrium and
Yeah.
where it wants to be, where it's comfortable, and where it will stay.
Yeah.
So that's part of the tuning problem we can talk about is where it moves over the nut. And these
Right,
days
and
I
if
know
that-
with electric guitars they have rollers up
Right.
here.
So there's no
And
friction problems or something.
exactly.
Yeah.
So there can be more problems than metallurgy or the whole structure, bending up or down
Yeah.
with tuning stability.
One of the things I tell students.
Lots of factors.
Yeah. One of the things I have to tell them, usually more than once, is if, for example, they're going into drop D
Yes.
and they do that, it's not going to work.
No, because they've released the tension too far here,
Right.
and now it's going to go flatter later, right?
Well, or it's going to creep back up. It's going to change.
Oh,
In
you're
other words,
talking
I
about-
didn't go flat.
Okay, so there's
I
the
took it
metallurgy
straight
thing.
down to
Right to
the
pitch.
To the pitch.
Okay.
And now in like less than 10 seconds, it's going to creep back up. a
Go
little
back.
bit.
Okay, so that's
And
the
so-
metallurgy thing.
Yeah. So what I tell them is you've got to, especially with the way guitar tuners work, don't ever be tuning down to a note.
No, it's not good.
The stability, the tuners just don't work that way. They're much more precise when you're increasing the tension
Go
than when
up.
you're decreasing it. So I would say, hey, if you're going to D,
Go down and back, and then back up to
and
Right.
and hope you can get those beats to disappear.
it. Beats. That's what we're going to learn about, beats.
Okay.
We're going to learn how to tune with beats.
What do you hear there?
Well, it gets deep
Yeah.
because there's partials.
Okay.
So when you have the fundamental in tune, sometimes there's a beating partial.
Okay.
Okay, so
Uh-oh.
that's all the stuff that you
That's
have.
deeper than we want to go today. I think.
Yes. Oh, yes.
But a problem guitar players do have is tuning by harmonics. So
Yeah.
now let's get one of my notes in tune according to a tuner. Let's get my A. on very old strings, which also creates its own problem.
Yes.
So now if I want to tune the sixth string using harmonics, how accurate is this going to be?
Well, if you can hear the beats well, and you know what they're supposed to do, then it's great.
Okay, so what are they supposed to do?
Well, are we getting into that now?
I guess so. What am I listening for?
Well, that's a fourth.
Right.
Okay. Fourths are wide. Fourths are wide.
Okay.
So that's a mistake that I think I made
Well,
as
what
a
do you mean
young.
it's a fourth? Because here I'm tuning two notes that are the same, right? But one's a fifth.
But you're bringing out a partial.
Right.
And so it's the same thing, like I shared with you, that if you just hit that open, you're still hearing those.
Right.
If you hit those two strings open, those are coming out.
Right. And the beats should be blending pretty well.
It doesn't matter if you hit harmonics or you hit it open.
Right.
That's what you listen to. That's what you're hearing on the wah wah.
Okay, so that's what you're talking about, the fourth. You're talking about the interval between
The
the,
interval
two strings.
between the two strings.
So if I try, I'm
is
trying to
is
tune this one a fourth down in this case, since I was tuning it from the A. I was using
Okay.
A as my starting point.
So so this is a fourth below,
Right.
and it's not supposed to be pure.
Right.
That's the problem. That's the problem I made as a young guitar player, frustrated. You know, some keys sound great, and then other chords don't chord right, and I thought there was something wrong with my guitar.
Okay.
You know, and of course, intonation is a problem. We'll talk about that too. But,
Maybe, yeah.
But
Maybe next week in our second episode.
but that's a fourth, and fourths are not pure. They're wide.
Okay.
In our equally tempered scale.
Okay. So
Equal temperament. That's what this thing
that's what
does.
we live with.
And that's what good ear tuning does is puts
Okay.
an equal distance between each half step. So
And the tuning, I guess, formula before that they used in the Renaissance and times like that was mean tempered.
they called it mean tone, I think, where
Okay.
where you had pure intervals.
Right.
And so I've never studied that, but I know that you could only play in certain keys.
Right. So
And-
my
and have
understanding
it
of that
sound-
is
sound good.
Right. It's like every note was tuned to what it should sound like according to what particular major scale.
Yes.
So we would tune all of our strings with respect to E.
It was tuned for a piece. It was tuned for that piece
Right.
of music.
And that's why in the even into the Baroque times, they wrote suites in pieces that they would play 20 minutes worth of a piece on the harpsichord before they would come out and retune it to play the piece
different
now in
one.
E flat.
Ah.
I just played an A. I'm going to play an E flat now. We got to retune this darn instrument.
Is that where the what do you call it? The intermission came from.
Probably.
I've heard that
Yeah.
to retune the harpsichord.
Yeah.
But I thought it was just because it went out of tune, not because you needed
It's probably
to
some of that
change the
too,
key.
but I think that was it. Is they had to change the temperament to
Yes.
play in a different key. Although if it were tuned for E, you could probably play an A and B maybe.
Okay.
Although I think on keyboards they would play typically more in flat keys. I'm relating it to guitar friendly keys, but still.
Yes.
But I think that's kind of the deal, and it wasn't. And I think Bach and a lot of other people were proponents of going into this well-tempered system or equal-tempered,
Equal temperament.
so that we could play the same piece, play the whole set of pieces, and obviously you wrote pieces to demonstrate that with the
Yeah.
whole, where you can play through all 24 keys without retuning your instrument.
I think it's better.
Well,
Equal temperament.
Yeah.
There's people that are hung up on,
does
The
that
old
mean
stuff.
does that mean though we've gotten used to living with things slightly out of tune?
that's how they are.
So we've adapted to it,
Yes.
and our ears hear that as okay.
But it's out of tune in a way that's not unpleasing to the ear, and that's when you hear something that does bother you because it's out of tune. What's actually bothering you is the beats.
Right.
It's the beats.
Right, because they're clashing
They're
more than I'm
flashing
comfortable
beats too fast of
Right. It's not very relaxing.
Yeah, it's the beats that are bothering you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we think it's pitch, but it's the
Yeah, even if we can't label them or say, "Oh man, that beating is bothering me,"
Doesn't
but your
sound
ears
good.
are hearing it. You may just not be able to define it.
doesn't sound good.
Yeah. Now, when I go into an open tuning, if I tune this thing to an open D or something like
Yes.
that, now we have a whole different story. At least because a lot of open tunings, you play very few fretted notes, and you use a lot of open strings in relation. People say, "Hey, why does it sound so much better? Why does slack key guitar sound so, peaceful
Pure
and
intervals.
stuff?" Because you can't go into a D tuning and then play in A flat. It will sound. So it's. I think it's a step in that mean tempered direction.
Right.
When we do that with the guitar.
Yes, and I suppose we when we sing, we probably just automatically always have
Right.
pure intervals.
You're going to sing a G sharp differently in the key of E than you would in.
Interesting. I haven't thought about that a lot, but it seems almost to me now like if I hear a third that's beatless, it doesn't sound right. Now those are a little fast, but no, you went the wrong way. Beatless is
Something like that, huh?
yeah, there's still plenty in there, but now you're close. So boy, I'd have to get used to
Now
hearing-
that sounds flat.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'd have
Because
to
as a
get-
guitar player, I can't have those strings tuned like that. I need that B has to be higher.
exactly.
Or I
well,
can't play
in
a D
this
chord.
key, exactly.
You know, yeah.
Or an E would be really
Yeah.
horrible. Beatless third there. So, yeah, that's interesting. I
Yeah.
don't know if we've gotten used to beats in the thirds or they're just proper, but
Yeah, see, now that sounds sharp.
too fast.
Yeah.
What are you hearing?
What do you mean?
The beats are way too fast.
Yeah, it's bothering me.
Yeah.
I want that back down there.
Well,
but now,
too much. But
yeah.
So that's
now,
what we're going
now
to
I
learn.
check that against the E.
That's what we're going to learn.
Okay.
I tune my B open. I don't fret it to
Oh yeah, you would. Yeah.
to
Okay, so tune this guitar.
Oh,
Tell me
boy,
how you
I'm
would
not-
do this.
Well, I like to start with G
Okay.
to the tuner because that's usually the most problematic.
So should we get that with this
at
with
the
a tuner
nut.
or not?
And so once in a while we still get together and play and he always says, "Tune my guitar with thirds." He wants me to tune his guitar.
Okay.
And because it makes for a blend, you know, and it also if you tune by ear, and which is what this is about, is you know helping people maybe tune their guitars by ear better than the tuner,
Okay.
like I tune a piano by
Right.
ear, like I used to.
Uh-oh.
Now I use a computer, but anyway,
Okay.
but it's a specialized thing. So beats are what it's all about. That's what people need to learn to listen to is beats.
Okay.
And you can even use, you don't have to get into thirds if you learn to listen to the beats, because typically you tune by pitch. And so people are comparing pitches, like, and you can hear pitch fairly well, but
Okay.
what's more accurate is the beats.
Okay.
And so, like, for instance, like, okay, so right now this interval's too narrow. It's probably pure even maybe. And so this is a fourth.
Fourth, okay.
It's a fourth, and so it's not supposed to be pure. So this third is beatless, and that's supposed to be also wide with beats in it. And so if we check the unison
Okay.
up here on the fifth, of course it's out of tune and
Right.
it's beating.
Yeah.
And so what we'll find, and the way you can check, and so if a person can learn to listen to beats even on the fifth fret, when you make it like it's
We're trying
like
to make-
it's,
right.
it's a unison. You want them to be the same.
Right.
And okay,
Yeah,
so if
those
you can,
hurt.
and you listen to the beats, and so if you're not sure if it's close, then you stretch it to see
Ah.
which direction you need to go.
Right.
So right now, I already know that this is sharp.
Right. So
Okay.
if you stretch that.
The D is sharp, so you listen and the beats are slight. If you stretch
Yeah.
it, you hear them go faster. So as a unison goes more out of tune, the beats increase, they get faster. So
Okay.
we find that it's already sharp, so of course it has to flatten. But when I tune to a tuner, I tend to tune to the G because it's the most problematic with movement up here at the nut.
Okay.
So if I was tuning this guitar to this G,
So let's check that G first
Okay.
with this just to see what we got. So it's saying it's a little flat.
now it's sharp.
Yep.
Like you say, you can't go down.
Right.
So what I do is
Okay, we got a green light there.
Good enough.
So one of the things you did there was release the tension or
Well,
equalize the tension.
well, yeah, because it gets stuck here,
Right.
and so I turn it and it hasn't moved, and I know that I've turned this, so it's pulling on it right here.
Right, so it's stretched there,
So
but hasn't slipped through the
you
nut.
tug it right there a
Yeah.
little bit. Then it'll be stable. It's not going to move later.
Yeah.
Somewhat stable. as guitars are. I watched a classical guy, I should know his name, years ago,
Okay.
up in it was Half Moon Bay, and
Oh, at the beach house there?
I don't
At
remember, but
Miramar?
I
mean, at
remember
the-
during a song I see him tuning, and he's like, he went reached up here and tugged. He tugged right up here, and I'm like, hey, that's good.
Uh-huh.
But
Okay, so now we have the G in tune, and now you're tuning a major third by pushing down at the first,
Yes,
or comparing
yes.
it, pushing down at the first fret. And what are you hearing there?
and if we're going to get fancy with teaching what the beats are supposed to do, and it's always going to be not black and white with a guitar because of intonation problems, but there is a correct beat rate for each one of those thirds, and they get faster as they go up. Like if we're at a piano, when you listen to thirds in the middle where you can hear them, I mean you can hear them on down into the bass somewhat too, but in the middle, what we call the temperament area, right in the middle of the piano,
Okay.
it's a vibrato fast beat, and if a piano's in tune, a good piano that's in tune, you'll hear as you go up with thirds, the beat rate increases.
When they're all in tune.
When they're in tune, the
Okay.
beats get faster as they go up and slower as they go down. And so,
Now that probably is partly dependent on the fact that the frequency is getting higher. So the ratio is getting...
I don't know why.
Okay.
And they can be hard to hear. And again, like if I'm fretting this, then I
it's
won't
dependent
stretch
on-
it sideways. I'll pull it a little harder or a little less
Right,
because
right.
you know if you pull it down over the fret, it sharpens.
Yeah. But you could actually flatten it by kind of pushing it this way too and release the tension on that string.
I can't flatten that here.
Yeah, you can.
No, I can't. By not
By
pulling
pushing it this
by
way.
not pulling it so
Oh,
hard.
watch this. No, I see you're making it sharp. Watch this.
No, I was pulling it this way.
Okay.
Let me try that.
So you got to push really hard.
Okay,
And you're
I know-
basically trying to push the
I
string
think I see what
Okay.
you mean. I think I noticed it a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is probably fairly in tune. Where are we? And these beats in the either
The
or the harmonic or when you hit it open can be hard to hear. They can be subtle. But if you have it so flat that it's wah 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 wah,
Right.
and you bring it up slowly,
You can
and
hear
you don't,
it
and you can
change.
hear it, you can hear it change, and you don't bring it all the way pure, then
Yeah.
you know you're in the ballpark. Then you check a third, and I always I don't know exactly the beat rates for the thirds, but like on a guitar, that's too fast, and so I kind of relate how, okay, this one's going to be a little slower than that, and then that one,
Right, because it's lower.
this one a little slower than that, and then of course, and this one you really can't hear very well, but you know you can hear that plain as day.
Yeah.
Sounds rattling in your guitar.
You know,
Neil.
yeah, I know. There's a loose wire in there.
See now,
Plus, the other thing we're
because the
doing,
intonation's bad,
right?
so that's what you can learn to do with ear tuning is
Right.
that this interval might have to be a little faster than it should.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, than you would on a perfectly intonated guitar. That would be slower.
So here's the problem.
So
Here's
then-
why.
yeah, like
Yeah.
this intonation. Oh, it's not bad.
Well, the problem is really that those strings are very, very old. And what I tell people when the strings get old, what happens is they're not a uniform diameter anymore from front to bottom, from top to end.
Yeah.
You know, there are spots where it's worn and spots where it's not as much. And so if you have it in tune open and you've got a weak spot in the string maybe here, all of a sudden past that weak spot the intonation is going to be different than it was when it was open.
I would flatten that.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds sharp.
So these tend to tune that B too sharp, right, for a guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But that's
now I think I was going to say earlier, probably the proper beat rate for this interval on a piano is faster than how you set it on a guitar because of intonation problems and how it frets sharp and it sounds bad.
yeah.
So that's about the rate that I usually set it at right there.
Okay.
Can you hear it? It's probably 6 beats a second.
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
You can kind of almost count it in the
Yeah.
second. So, but that's what we learn in piano tuning school is the beat rates
Right.
for thirds and fifths and fourths.
Okay.
And because everything, like you said earlier, everything is compromised out of tune a little bit
Right.
somehow to get between an octave. All these intervals so they're equally spaced. The string, the half steps are equally spaced, and you can play in all keys.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then man, it's just all the chords all over the place just blend so nicely.
Yeah.
I didn't finish tuning this, but
Yeah.
it's close. But
Well, and as I was just trying to say a second ago, these strings are so old that it doesn't matter how well you tune it, because certain fretted notes are going to sound bad now because the strings are beat.
yeah, I don't know about the old string thing for tuning. I don't know if
See, I
I've
think it's
noticed
different on the
that.
guitar than on the piano, because on the piano you don't touch the strings.
But I mean, what I have noticed in my tuning of my dead string guitars.
Oh, okay.
It might be partly that what you're hearing because of it changes the partials,
Okay.
overtones, and
They get
because they
weaker.
get so dead.
Yeah.
You know, the string gets so dead, and I don't know if
Yeah.
it maybe changes those partials, but
Yeah.
I don't have personally being a piano tuner.
Right.
I don't have a problem tuning my dead string guitars,
Right.
so that they
But see, I would-
so they play in tune.
I would kind of venture to say that.
I haven't studied that as
That-
far as, worn spots at the frets or,
Yeah.
or finger oil and how
all that
ex-
stuff. Because,
extra mass.
Gook accumulates in the strings.
I would think it would be
in the lines of the strings.
The mass would be what you're talking about more than worn spots.
Maybe because the mass would get more on the wound strings.
Yeah,
because
where
it's gonna
there's
absorb
because it
crap.
absorbs the oil
And then it might get less on these
Yeah, I
strings
think
because they
plain
actually
wire.
do get worn.
I never
a
thought
little bit.
about worn spots on plain wire.
Yeah.
I suppose I'd have to look at them under a microscope and see
Yeah.
what they look like.
Yeah.
Seems like the frets wear, and not
They
the,
do.
and
You know,
not
I've had-
the-
you got to
not
replace
the
frets pretty
strings.
often on the guitar.
Yeah.
Well, not a lot of people never do it their whole life, but
I know.
I have to do it every couple of years.
that one's worn.
Yeah.
Anyway, well,
Okay.
cool.
Well, I think we got a good
Good start.
hint into this stuff, and maybe we'll try to put some more stuff together that because I think people will get a little their curiosity will get piqued by this as
Yeah.
far as and things. So we'll put maybe some more formal stuff together that we actually like plan and stuff. I know you said, hey, let's write a script, and I said, no, just come over. Let's just start talking first and
Yeah.
kind of open the door and see what's going on. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate you doing this, and I know you gotta get off and run to the airport.
This
so
is
that's-
fun. This is
that's,
fun.
But
I love guitars.
yeah. Well, me too.
I
And,
don't always love piano tuning, but
Yeah.
it's a fun gig. I enjoy it actually.
Perfect
For me. All right.
Well, Randy, thanks
Thank
for
you,
coming.
Neil.
It was great.